Welcome to Puffery, a fresh perspective on why ADVentura. I'm Nicole Knobel, and I'm happy to have you guys again on this treasure hunt, where the map is written after we've arrived and the treasure is always banded in an ADV shield. On today's episode, we have a very special guest for you guys, the co-founder of ADVentura, Marcel Knobel, and we're happy to have you guys. So grab your favorite blend, get comfy, and join us as we find out more from the ultimate Swiss precision. Welcome to the show, Mr. Knobel.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. You're by far the most handsome guest we've had on the show so far.
You haven't had anyone, so...
Just go with it, please, sir. I have some good questions lined up for you, for the audience to kind of but really see who is behind the brand. I know you get a lot of opportunity to see people on the road at shows, but it's hard to really talk to everyone on a personal level when we have so many people coming by the booth, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So should we dive right in?
Yep.
Okay.
Ready.
Start with some foundational questions for you. For visions and beginnings, what inspired you to step into the cigar industry as a retailer, and how did that foundation shape the vision you had for ADV?
Well, I actually was 2013, that was 2012. I was applying for Habanos Switzerland, which is the official distributor for Cuban cigars in Switzerland, and I wanted to be their sales director. So that didn't happen because they told me my education level is a bit too high, and as a sales director of Cuban cigars, it's mainly leadership or leading people. There is nothing to do with marketing or shape marketing or whatsoever. So I decided to start as a side actually to sell cigars, and then that became bigger and bigger. So I founded my company here in Switzerland in 2014 and started officially selling cigars, mostly Cuban cigars back then. Yeah, that's right.
Wow. I'm going to let the audience in on a little secret that we live together, but I think that's the first time I've heard that you applied for that specific job. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm happy it worked out the way it did.
But... Yeah, me too. So actually, my best friend and I, we tried to combine with that application for Habanos Switzerland. We were producing humidors, like high-end humidors with automatic elevators inside and stuff like that. So that was kind of part of my application to show the people that that we are already somehow very interested in cigars and the humidor and all that stuff, but it didn't happen anyway. So,
okay, that's so interesting. And what would you say was the tipping point that made you decide to create something of your own after selling Cubans for such a long time?
Well, it wasn't such a long time. It was actually for 2 years, and then. I've been always a guy looking for details, like educate myself. And of course I did that or wanted to do that with Cuban cigars as well. But the main information you normally received was, yes, it's Cuban tobacco and it's a Cuban cigar. But as many of you might know, so there are different kind of seeds and they're not going to tell you. Of course, you can read some books, but... So I decided to create something where my hands are involved as well, and I can also explain my guests and customers of my store a little bit more about the cigars they're about to buy or to smoke. So I decided to create my own house blend. That's how it started.
Super cool. And the story of ADV, I've kind of explained in episodes beforehand, it really mirrors the story of tobacco itself, right? So moving from the old world to the new world, how has this parallel shaped the brand's narrative and your approach to building it?
Well, it's also, afterwards I can say it's also my personal story, which I have with Henderson, my partner, and because I'm from the old world, he's from the new world. But mainly I had because I don't have any heritage in tobacco, nor does it have my family. So I had to create an artificial story, and why not building that story around something people know and can recognize easily, which are pirates back in the day, 1492, Christopher Columbus, navigation, and all that stuff. So that was my main point to create the brand ADVentura. And it's also easy because it's a story which has been there to retell the story again. So that was my intention.
Okay. Cool. I've explained in the episodes before kind of how the intention, you really just wanted a house blend, and the brand itself didn't really come until kind of the second blend was created, right?
No, not necessarily. The development of the brand came after, but I mean, ADVentura the Explorer was my first, it was my first line actually. And I mean, it came in, or it comes in a treasure chest, and it's already clear. It's the piratey theme. It's 1492, so that was clear. The development of the brand came later, yes, with the Navigator especially, and then the Conqueror. Because I didn't have any intention to make that brand big. So I thought for myself, well, I don't know, ADVentura the Explorer, it's probably going to be it. Maybe there's another one coming. But I kind of planted the seed already so it could grow bigger.
Yeah. Without
having the plan to expand or make it as big as it is right now.
But just in case, right?
Just in case.
Yeah. That's one of the many things that I very much admire about you. It's like you're never a short-term thinker. You're always like a very long-term planner, you never know, just in case something like that happens. So we definitely appreciate that. Speaking of this just in case thing, being someone that has no heritage, like you mentioned, in tobacco and no history and not really knowing anyone or where to start down there, what are some of the things that you did to kind of protect yourself or like, make sure you weren't getting taken advantage of, so to speak? Or how does one really like ensure that you're getting what you absolutely need when you go down there? Because I for sure would be very hesitant.
No, there's no possibility. You have to get in. You cannot. There's no protection at all, especially when you don't speak Spanish, which I learned, but that came later. There's no way of having any protection. So you just you also don't have any clue about sustainability. So how if that blend, if your reorder is going to remain the same or similar or whatever, I also think those kind of stuff you're not thinking of anyway because you're too excited creating your own blend or your house blend. So you don't. I know it's somewhere there that you think they may gonna cheat on me or something, but the excitement is definitely much bigger. So you don't really care of that stuff in the beginning. But definitely, if you dive into it more and you develop the brands, that there's definitely something you get to the point where you feel, I think I have to start protect myself in any other way, and especially try to understand what they are talking to each other when you're just standing next to it and just speaking English, because there are not many people down there speaking English, or especially proper English. So, but this protection you don't have. You just dive into it and see what happens.
Okay. And I know that one of the things you mentioned in the beginning that was kind of like an insurance policy, just in case, that you did that I thought was brilliant, was you decided, and I'm not sure if this is when you guys actually decided to become partners, or this was just something like in the beginning, if something was going to be bad, at least you were not going to have your name on it. You were going to have the guy that made it his name on it.
Exactly.
Tell us about that.
So, actually, Henderson told me after he became a partner that he also had the idea of like making a brand called ADVentura without the D. And yeah, of course, I was like, okay, before you cheat on me, I'm gonna somehow give me give me a protection that includes your name in the brand. And since my idea was that 1492 Christopher Columbus adventure kind of stuff, Ventura is a perfect fit. And ADVentura Cigars, that would be kind of like a little too, like, I don't know, nothing special. So I created ADVentura, which includes Henderson's surname. Exactly. So to give me somehow of a protection, not to get cheated.
Okay, I like it. We're truthful here. Let's talk about philosophy and strategy. We had an episode where I really went through the Swissness of the Swiss precision portion of our tagline. And you're known for your calculated and strategic approach to everything that you do. So how do you balance the need for precision with the unpredictability of an industry as dynamic as cigars?
That's a good question. I mean, there's just a certain amount of precision you can get because you're dealing with a product of nature. So there's always differences. You cannot be, it's not a medical product, which is also nice. So you rely on weather, climate, and all that stuff, and also how the tobacco ages, if it has grown nicely and all that stuff. So there's just a certain precision which you can guarantee in terms of the product. What you can do precisely is building the brand, so to make the story cohesive, to create a branded house and not a house of brands, to be precise with the story of the brand, so you can easily develop it in a direction which is always easy to recognize. And of course also apply precision to all these operations and customer relationships. I think there's where the precision lies. Also, you have to deal, and I don't mean that in a negative way, you have to deal with still a third world country. So there is just so much precision you can achieve there. Because the culture is different in the Dominican, they work differently, they see life a bit differently, and that's something you're not going to change, and you have to adjust. So, yeah,
that's great. I mentioned that also, that that's kind of the cool thing about this whole industry and the brand and the world of cigars in and of itself. It's just this like calamity of everybody worldwide desires it, but the source of it is a force to be reckoned with, and nobody can overstep it or change it, or so I think that's really important. Speaking of how you can only get so far with that precision, I mentioned that you always have this relentless curiosity about blending and tobacco origins and the industry as a whole. So how do you continue to evolve your knowledge, and how does that curiosity influence the decisions you make today?
I mean, you have to talk to people when you're down there. You always think, or I always think, I know a lot until I go down there, and then you experience that you don't know a lot. So yeah, you have to talk to people. You have to talk to tobacco farmers, rollers. Keep in touch with everybody involved in the craftsmanship of making a cigar. Not necessarily with other brand owners, because they have different approaches, different opinions, and that may distract you, but with people of or from the craftsmanship. And of course, my partners are easy access to a whole lot of knowledge in terms of tobacco. So yeah, I always keep my eyes and ears open to whoever is involved in that tobacco craftsmanship, to listen to him and learn. So that's how I do it. And of course, I take notes, and I have my own booklet, which I take my notes. I always take that booklet down to the Dominican Republic and add some stuff to it. So yeah, it becomes kind of my own glossary of tobacco.
Yeah.
But there is no book there are books, but there is not a book which I could recommend you to read, and then you know everything.
No.
It never ends with tobacco.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because nature never ends. So yeah.
Yeah, always new developments and new things to learn from and look to, I guess. And I do love that you mentioned that black book, because it's like Marcel's little black book. But when you look, I love that you bring that with you and study it every time. And it's like, it's such a cool thing for me.
I almost lost it once in the plane.
Well, I'm glad you.
Yeah, I'm glad. Oh, I was kind of that was kind of scary. I was like, "Oops, where's my black book?"
Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about some pivotal moments. Looking back, what was the most challenging moment for you personally during the building of ADV, and how did you push through it? What did it teach you?
The most challenging moment was, I think it was not even the fire which we had. It was probably because it became a bigger brand, to make sure, because we haven't had any bank involved at any given point of time. So like, make sure that this brand always have enough cash to develop the next one and the next line, and to make it bigger and bigger. It's always like you're shoveling money, you take money, you're shoveling in some money. So it's always this kind of like living on the edge of cash management. I think that was the biggest challenge building the. I mean, there were several challenges, of course, but this was one of the biggest challenges. Because I never had the intention to ask anybody for money, not even especially not the bank. So everything has been grown organically, and we keep it that way. But this also has been the most challenging part of building that brand.
Yeah, good point. Speaking of the fire, 2022, when that devastated the factory, we essentially had to start from scratch, right? And what was your mindset during that time? How did you make the decision to rebuild with such determination?
Well, I mean, it's easy. Say something afterwards is always easy, but it definitely, to make the decision to create our own manufactory was perfect. It was the perfect time. We were on the edge of. Because we were producing with Tabacalera ADVentura, and they got bigger also as a factory, and like waiting for production slots to produce your cigars, and then you develop the brand. There are new lines coming or limited editions and stuff like that, and you always have to like wait for production slots. Was like we were up to a point where this was almost not possible anymore. So the fire took the decision for us to create our own factory, and we are more than happy having our own factory right now, because the flexibility, of course, you have to feed the monster, yes, but the flexibility which has been given to us is just like perfect right now, at the perfect time, the perfect thing at the perfect time. To grow the business.
What makes your partnership with Henderson so special, and how do your differences complement each other with building a brand?
I mean, having the respect and patience with each other, because I'm coming from a culture which is very precise. We have like clear efficiencies, and we are having clear milestones in mind when we start a project. That is in the Dominican Republic different, and it needs respect and patience from either side, because it's that different. And we never got to a point where this was a problem between us. And I think this is definitely something which like is great for our friendship and business partnership we have, you know.
For team building, you've spoken a lot about the importance of building a team and not just a factory. But how do you identify and nurture the right people to help bring ADV's vision to life?
Well, it's mainly Henderson's part because Henderson is down there in the factory. But we always, it's always like a war of talent in every business. And of course, you have a lot of good rollers, but you also have mediocre rollers. So we want to make sure because we educate them in terms of how to blend or how we see blending a cigar, and giving them our knowledge and our vision of not just the blend, but also the company, and involve them respectively, and next to giving them a great salary. That makes that factory more a university rather than just a factory where the people come for work.
Mm-hmm. And how does that translate then to the sales side of things? So how to communicate the story effectively so that our sales team can go out and kind of spread the word using the same message and the same language, so to speak, and in why ADV, why any retail partner should grow with ADV.
I mean, as you know, you do most of that part, and we do a lot of why ADV events. And educate also our sales staff, not just our employees in the factory, but also our sales staff, even if it's monthly meetings or monthly YADBs. And whenever something pops up, or even another sales guy has an idea in terms of, hey, I think there's something to add to YADV, which I have just found out. Let me tell you that we involve all the other sales guys and as well, and educate them. So it's kind of an own rolling process.
Yeah, I think that's something that's pretty tricky when you don't have full-time people. That we have brokers, right? So getting them to feel family enough and appreciated enough and a part of why we are who we are, that is strictly communication efforts and making sure that we stay in touch in communication. Not just with the logistics, right, of inventory and promos and this and that, but really they are the ones with the boots on the ground, and they're the ones that are face-to-face with retailers every day. So getting their feedback as to what could help or what programs we should develop, I think that's really pivotal in bringing together both sides and relating that to the factory. Let's talk about innovation and legacy. For blending philosophy, what does, and I did a whole episode on this, I know you listened intently, and what does balance, complexity, and harmony mean to you in the context of building cigars, and how do you translate those goals into a product that stands out in a saturated market?
Very good question. So to me, it's this question is very personal. So there are maybe some people who see it differently, but to me, complexity is, to explain it easily, complexity is the amount or quantity of different aromas in a cigar. The harmony is like how they are interacting with each other. It's like an orchestra creating a harmony. And balance is coming from aging of the tobacco. Balance is coming from, it has to do with transition of the 3/3 of smoking a cigar. Is it in balance? Is there any transition? Is it a smooth transition? Or does it have any peaks or highs and lows? How that's what balance is to me in a cigar. It's very similar to wine as well. So, and how we translate that is just a lot of like concentrate and self-reflecting with your palate, and this is also something which I can like go back to Henderson's partnership. We see that exactly the same, or we don't have the same palate necessarily, but these three things, harmony, complexity, and balance, we see that exactly the same. And we always try to seek for creating those or bring those three pieces together in a new direction of flavor profile. That's what what we make. So we make cigars which we like, which we love, and not necessarily cigars which people could love. And first and foremost, but it's just the greatest feeling, of course, if you created something which you love, and having all these three pieces in a cake together, and then our customers are going to smoke it, and they're going to come with the same response saying, hey, that's one of the best cigars I've ever smoked. This is just like the best compliment you can give to a producer, or especially to us. Of course, if they buy and everything, it's nice, but if you receive that as a compliment, I think you achieved everything you wanted to achieve as a producer.
That's great. And what about, I mean, having a palate is one thing, right? But I know that you intently train your palate. Like that is a thing that you spend a lot of time developing to be able to further expand like the width and depth of all of these three components when it comes to blending. So how do you do that? How do you train your palate?
Well, I did a wine education. It's not a sommelier. It's similar to a sommelier, but it's different. Which is called the WSET. But anyway, so part of that education was kind of like, it was a box with 50 different aromas. It's called le nez du vin. It's French, and you have 50 different aromas, and you have 50 cards, which reveals the aroma. So, and then every morning for 50 minutes, I pick any little bottle, smell on it, and try to reveal what kind of aroma it is. So this is how you train the nose, and of course, like that's one way to train, and the other way to train is always be open to try any kind of food, any kind of drinks there are, to really concentrate, not just like drinking or eating it. So really concentrate to see what's going on your palate. So but I think that's even bigger than that 50 aroma box. Like get into and really try to. You don't have to do that for 10 minutes. Do it for 30 seconds. Just like eat and drink consciously for 30 seconds and see what's going on your palate. I think that's the bigger part.
Really interesting. That's great advice, I think. Pushing boundaries. ADVentura has always sought to innovate while respecting tradition. How do you strike that balance? And what's next for the brand in terms of pushing boundaries?
Well, pushing boundaries next is definitely that podcast, I would say, try to like figure out. I mean, there's no new way of producing cigars, especially not to us, because we are very traditional in terms of how to make a cigar. Where we can push the boundaries is within customer relationships, like social media and all that stuff. I think there is where the pushing the boundaries lies, and I think that podcast is one step in the right direction. Many to follow, and I mean also the QR code was definitely one which we put on every cigar, and you can scan it, and then a video pops up of me and Henderson explaining the blend of that specific cigar you are smoking. It's tiny pieces here and there, which I don't think there is anything major you can really push the boundaries. It's always bits and pieces where you can try to find new ways and try to like enter or try it out, try and error, and I think there lies the push of the boundaries.
Okay. When you think about ADVentura's long-term impact, what do you hope it represents in the cigar world, and what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think we're on a very good path, even though I've never imagined that we are on a very good path of having a great and respected boutique brand in the boutique world, and that's something Henderson and I always wanted. It was never our intention to be like mass production, I would say. We like to keep it in a boutique world, to have access to certain tobacco and work, not just to have access. because the bigger brands also have access to it, but they don't necessarily can take it because the tobacco, the raw material is not enough to create a quantity of cigars, which for them is useful. But for us, because we are smaller, it is. And the legacy, I think, history or like the life of ADVentura will or the story of ADVentura will continue to be written, and the legacy, it's kind of like, it's hard to say what kind of legacy we're going to leave behind, because every day a new episode is written in the book of ADVentura. So we will see how that turns out. I also not like to have great ending visions of a brand. So I rather have it here and now and try to write that story from today, not from in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's kind of what I say in the intro anyways, that the map is forged and written after we've traveled it, right?
Right.
What's been the most rewarding part of this journey for you personally?
What I just said, being respected and recognized as like down to earth, a brand which you can count on, and which has its standing in the world of the cigar industry. I think that's very, very rewarding, because it's not easy. Nobody waited for us. Nobody's waiting for any cigar brand to come out, and you also have to push through. That's not, I mean, cigar industry is a slow burning business. You have to push through. You have to, I mean, in high tech industries, you maybe are through in 2 to 3 years or 5, and the cigar industry takes you definitely 10. It's a slow burning business, like it is a slow burning product. So, I think this is very, very. It's also gives you a very, very good feeling.
Is there a specific moment that revealed to you, this is why we do what we do?
Well, every time, I would say every time a customer comes to me, that was like PCA 2 years ago. I was walking back from the restrooms back to our booth, and then a guy, like, he pointed at my shoulder, and I turned around. He's like, "Hey, are you the guy from ADVentura?" And I was like, "Yes." And then he's like, took my hands, and he like, "Thank you so much, sir. It's the greatest cigar I've ever smoked. I just wanted to say thank you." These kind of moments are just great and gives you the feeling of hey, you're doing the right thing. It's just like, or even when our ADV Pirates, what I see on the Facebook group or everywhere, whenever some of our brand fans and customers are posting a picture and writing a nice note underneath how much they like the cigars, and I think these are the moments which gives you the feeling, hey, you're doing something great here.
Yeah, I love that. What advice would you give someone who's looking to start a brand or to enter the cigar industry, especially in today's competitive landscape?
Bring a lot of patience. Choose the right partner. Make sure, patient. Make sure you are really ready to push yourself through a couple years of ups and downs, and don't think after the first little hype you made it, because that's not the case. I mean, going into market, and there you can create a little hype because it's new, and a lot of people like when it's new. But then the work starts after the first little hype, and then you need patience. You need a lot of workforce. You need a strategy. You need the right part. There's so many components. It's definitely not easy.
Okay, so a little fun questions here. Swiss meets Dominican. What's the most surprising thing you've learned about the Dominican culture, and how has it influenced your way of doing business?
The most funny thing, well, it's not funny. I would say it always surprises me when I go down there with very little, what they have, how happy they are with the houses down there. As I said, it's a third world country. They don't have much down there, but they always seem to be happy. They always seem to be happy, even if you go to visiting other families which you don't know. They're smiling. They invite you. They give you coffee. You're always very warm welcomed, but they don't have a lot to give. And this is very, what tells you that? Maybe that you can be happy with very little. You don't have to strive for whatever material things. You can be happy with very little, and I think this is something which should be respected and honored. And how does that influence? Yeah, it also can influence your business. Make it's in small steps. Be happy with small steps. Don't expect always the biggest kind of step, or just always think just the biggest step or good enough, because normally it doesn't happen that way. So, take small steps. Be happy about the small steps and every little success you can get.
Yeah, the small victories, right?
Small
that
victories.
lead up to the big ones. Yeah. Desert Island Cigar. If you could only smoke one ADV cigar for the rest of your life, which one would it be and why?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question. Probably gonna be a King's Gold Robusto. It's probably because this was, I love every blend of ours. And some people may thought it's gonna be the Explorer because it was our first cigar. But I think the King's Gold and Queen's Pearls, that was our turning point of we had a little success, that little hype created with the core line, and then Royal Return came with Queen's Pearls and King's Gold, and then it really took off from there. But I'm still in love with that blend because it's really, at that time, it was really different to what we've had. So probably it's going to be the King's Gold Robusto.
Okay, all right. And what do you do outside of cigars, either to relax or unwind, or is there a Swiss or Dominican or American habit that keeps you going?
Yeah, as you know, I do a lot of sports. I'm crazy about golf. I golf almost every day, and of course enjoying wonderful dinners and with you. Great food and great wine. Cooking, making bread, making desserts. That's my resort. Yours is the others. So I think, but doing that together and always has to do with developing your palate. And I think this is something which is very relaxing and educating at the same time.
I'm going to just jump in on the old golf thing for a moment.
I knew this is coming.
Because, this is something I honestly, sometimes I bitch about this, but I honestly admire this about you. But for a guy that can start golf, we started 3 years ago, right? And the whole reason we started was to be able to do something outside during lockdown, essentially. Yeah. And both of us, we play basketball, right? But this matchup isn't exactly fair unless we're only playing a shooting game. So we decided we wanted to do something that we could be outside for and was somewhat active, but not as intense as basketball. So we started golf 3 years ago. And
it's the fourth season now.
Okay. Entschuldigung. Fourth season. And you're single-digit handicapper.
Yeah.
So for those of you guys that golf and know how difficult that is to achieve, starting from never touching a golf club 3 years ago to being a single handicapper, that's all I need to say about Swiss Precision. Bottled up right there. So I just, I think it's funny and important and all these things to show why things are the way that they are when it comes to ADV, and a reflection of you and how we were able to kind of build this brand into what it is today. So that's all the questions I have for you, Mr. Knobel.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time.
Likewise. Thank you for having me here.
Yes, to be on the show. We're for sure going to have you back because we got to start discussing the blends, and we're going to break down each one of them line by line. But next up on our next episode, we're going to interview Mr. Ventura, the counterpart to this, and get some great information out of him. But final thoughts, Mr. Knobel? Have you any?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for you and your efforts for this podcast. I think it's a great way to push the boundaries. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're paying me a lot to do this, actually. No. So thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, may your cigars be smooth, your moments intentional, and your perspective ever fresh.